Given that you clicked on this video, you're probably already familiar with the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Maybe you're a current player, maybe you're a hobbyist or collector, maybe you're a fan of the fiction. I recommend giving Leviathan a read so you can use it as ammunition against people saying named helmetless Ultramarines are invincible. Or maybe you're the czar of the middle school lunch table and you watched a few YouTube shorts and call everything heretical and hate the Tau because Reddit told you to. Either way, we're going with the assumption that you want to start fresh in 11th edition. One thing I want people to understand is that I am well aware of tools like New Recruit, r/Poorhammer, proxies, Wahapedia, whatever the hell, so don't tell me about 3D printers, mom's gonna be pissed. We are doing this with the assumption that everything will be purchased off of the Games Workshop official website, everything will be in USD. Warhammer is one of the most expensive hobbies in the genre of silly nerd stuff. It takes up a massive amount of resources. Money, time, and patience. Money with how much models and tools cost, time with hours spent building, painting, learning the rules, and the fact that the average 2,000 point game lasts about 3 hours, and patience has a part in all of this. For some context, I started Warhammer 40k when I was gifted the 10th edition Ultimate Starter Set. That starter set included the Tyranid Combat Patrol at the time, as well as the Space Marine one. It had some pretty bare-bones terrain that I legitimately never ended up using, a rules booklet, and a handful of other goodies. I ended up selling the Space Marines to someone for my first Tyrannofex kit and some cash, which I used to purchase a Hive Tyrant, and I promptly built it as a Swarm Lord. By then, I still hadn't punched up to 1,000 points yet. One of the first mistakes I made with Warhammer was trying to get to 2,000 points as soon as possible before even playing my first game. I will add to this later. By the time this video is released, 11th edition has become somewhat established. Games Workshop offers a $250 starter set which includes the current Space Marines Combat Patrol as well as the Orcs, both of which are entirely pushed to fit miniatures, as I understand, excellent Combat Patrol terrain, rules and guide booklets, and several other helpful goodies similar to those that you could find in the 10th edition Ultimate Starter Set. However, in my opinion, I do not think that buying the 11th edition starter set is a good idea to introduce yourself to the hobby. It isn't necessarily bad either, but if you're starting Warhammer, you'll still need a lot more to even get the game going. Not only that, you're committing $250 to a hobby you haven't even experienced yourself yet. So I'm going to break my aforementioned rule for a moment and suggest, if possible, go to your local game store or LGS. Introduce yourself to the Warhammer players and ask to spectate. If your LGS has mostly normal, mostly functioning people, they'll have no problem with this. They might even both realize they have a new potential enthusiast and a possible friend, and turn the game from a competitive event between the two of them to showing you the basics of rules and interesting interactions going on throughout the game. Pay attention, listen, and most of all, ask questions. Join the group chat, Discord, whatever, and keep playing nice, so you might be able to meet up with someone and use one of their armies and play against one of theirs. Circling back though, we're going to look at this terrible mistake I made with starting Warhammer and speedrunning myself to building a 2,000 point army. For 11th edition, I found Reddit user u/RMiteX's comment on r/Ultramarines detailing his 2,000 point list. I took the price of each model off of GW's website and totaled it. All the prices were found at the time of writing. The list is comprised of, and forgive me for mispronouncing any of this, Marnius Calgar in Armor of Antilochus, this is going to be a little off script, $55.50. Captain Uriel Ventress, $42 even. Intercessor Squad, $65. Company Heroes, $69. 2 Eradicator Squads, $120 total. 2 boxes of Victric Honor Guard, 130 total. Wardens of Ultramar with Titus, $94. 2 Stern Guard Veteran boxes, $130 total. 1 Ballistus Dreadnought, $73.50. A Gladiator Lancer, $96. A Land Raider, $96. And a Repulsor, if you could believe it, $96. And this isn't to say that this is a bad list at all, but please remember that I'm speaking about the prices of the hobby and I'm not focusing on how it is played until later. Many players might have purchased this slowly over time or something similar. If you were to buy all of this now in one sitting, that's $1,067 before taxes. Once again, we're not purchasing models off of eBay or other websites. This is all Games Workshop prices as intended. $1,067 is a lot of money. That's possibly a car payment or rent for some people, just in plastic. And if we were to assume that playing at a 1,000 point game would have the cost, that's still over $500. This doesn't account for paint or tools either, but I will cover that at the end of the video unscripted. I want to drive this point home as much as possible. This is a hobby that costs a massive amount of resources, your money, time, and patience. There are many reasons why someone would purchase out like this, but I am mostly showing this to give you reference for how much just a 2,000 point army can cost. This still only accounts for models exclusively. There are more costs that I'm going to have to cover. This gets kind of crazy. Earlier, I made a point of saying we're going to do this as Games Workshop has intended, so please suspend your disbelief and assume you have no one to teach you, and whenever you touch a device to look for non-Games Workshop official material to refer to, it explodes. Currently, we're at $1,067. We're pretending we purchased all of those models, and we're going from there completely clueless about everything else. You'll need to purchase the rulebook, which is $25. After that, you'll need to buy the codex to use the Warhammer app, which runs about $50 usually. I mentioned the Warhammer app, and I failed to express that to utilize almost all features, you'll need a Warhammer Plus subscription, which runs $74.99 annually. After that, we can add someone else to play with in this scenario. Assuming they bring nothing but their army, and you can't get anything third party, you'll need terrain to work with. Games Workshop, unfortunately, does not often produce terrain, and when they do, it's expensive and low stock, which typically makes it even more expensive. Though currently, Games Workshop is offering a combat patrol set of terrain designed for 1,000 point games for $170. You'll need 2 sets of this, so that's $340 total. If Games Workshop were not currently offering this product, writing off what I said earlier, you would have no other alternative except to make your own terrain or go to a third party to get some, both possibly being even more expensive than that $340 number. When we add all those numbers together, that's an additional $489.99. And adding it to the cost of the Ultramarine list results in $1,556.99. In my opinion, speaking from experience, this is a terrible decision to make. You don't know if you like any parts of this hobby yet, and you have purchased nearly everything to get going, save for necessary tools and paints. If you were to pick between these 2 options, the 11th edition starter set is a no-brainer. If you were to go half and half with a friend or someone, and both of you are equally excited to play each combat patrol, or both of you really like the combat patrol the other doesn't, then it becomes a much better starting point, given it's quickly playable with just some tools, and only requiring 1/5, simplified and rounded up, of the price of the Ultramarines list and everything with it. Picking the combat patrol allows 2 people to play or gives you 2 unique patrols if you don't have someone to join in. But in my honest opinion, it still isn't the best. Warhammer 40k has several subgames. I know very little about Necromunda, aside from that you control a gang of characters in a narrative campaign that grows over time, your characters developing with it, that takes place in the deep depths of a hive city. It has a large fan base and genuinely does seem very, very fun, but there are opinions that the new starter set is lacking. I understand it's immensely complicated, I've never seen anyone playing it in person, and my little information on the game would make me a poor advocate for it. Then there's Kill Team. Kill Team is a masterpiece. Learning 40k is incredibly difficult. There are things you need to constantly account for. Keywords, unique abilities, what your units can do, stratagems, and specifics that you are never going to learn entirely unless you're some possible cyborg or perfect human being. That doesn't even just account for the general rules. In 40k, you're often playing with a massive variety of units, and even within those units, you might have certain guys who do different things than the other ones, and you gotta remember all of that. That's a massive simplification, but if I were to go through all of it, this video would probably be like 7 hours long. I have 3 40k armies, Tyranids, Chaos Knights, and Tau, and I can just barely play the game, and in no possible way could lead a game. It's shocking I've won as many times as I have, which is like about a dozen. Not only that, Warhammer is the kind of thing you dedicate an entire day to. There is so much going on at all times, and the game can last a very, very long time. I taught my partner how to play Kill Team in less than an hour. But ease of access isn't just the reason why Kill Team is the best option to start playing Warhammer. I've made this point several times, but Warhammer as a hobby requires lots of resources. Money, time, and patience. Are you getting sick of me saying that yet? Kill Team might as well reduce all of this to a fraction of a fraction. Several entire kill teams count as one single unit in standard 40k. Not only does that mean you can use the guys for one game, but you can use them for the other game too. It's like a brownie that's also a cookie. But in all seriousness, you're only dealing with a single unit. Kill teams are designed to run from 1 to 20 models in a single unit. I mostly run elite teams with 5 to 6 models, but I've been working on my Goremongers, which run 8. Added note, I finished these the day before I started recording. Kill Team is on a much smaller scale, much easier to pick up, and much faster to play. Also, you don't need a huge specific Warhammer table, or several non-Warhammer tables, to play an entire game. I've always just put the mat down on a standard table across from my opponent, and played the entire game mostly sitting down. The Kill Team starter set is sincerely excellent. For $114, I got mine much cheaper on eBay with the box slightly damaged. You're able to get everything you need to actually start up and go, with only needing a very minimal amount of tools. 2 push-to-fit kill teams, including the Space Marine Angels of Death, which are still an A-ranking team, and the Death Guard Plague Marines, which are still dominating as one of the best and easiest to play teams in the game. Alongside that, you get one of the terrain mats and a handful of very basic but very useful and quality terrain. Also necessary to the game, you get a good amount of tokens. I was able to get a copy of the game board, terrain, and tokens on eBay for about $14, which I highly recommend doing. However, there definitely are some issues. You miss out on mission packs or official terrain layouts, but with the starter set, you're just getting a feel for things. In total, it took me about 2 hours to set up the Kill Team starter set, and that's adding the time I spent making sure every single model and every unit was glued together instead of just pushed together. This includes the terrain as well, but that part legitimately takes like 3 minutes once you learn how to read how they're put together. Here's a quick aside, editing Spencer. I forgot to mention that in any of the other terrain sets I bought, which is just one, Gallo Dark, they don't come with mission decks or other important stuff. You're gonna have to Google it or set up your own narrative play, as in make it up yourself. Kill Team offers many opportunities for large and engaging narrative play, especially with Nemesis operatives now, which I'll probably do a separate video on once I have it in my hands and have played with it a bit. You don't get the core rules book. You instead get this strange magazine that assumes a lot of things and makes it difficult for people who haven't played a ward game before, but as I said earlier, I was able to teach my partner in less than an hour. But that's not even much of a problem. The Kill Team app gives you free information for every single kill team and all kinds of other rules. This doesn't mean the core rules book isn't borderline essential. It's an incredibly useful tool to reference objective things, but one of the best parts about Kill Team is you can basically play it however you want if all players agree, which is pretty dope. You can go hog wild with Rule 0. Make your own insane terrain, make your own narrative missions. As long as both players agree on it, you can turn just a game into a role-playing, storytelling event. Though Kill Team has official tournaments, in my experience, it also has an incredibly lax player base. The average Kill Team costs about $70, about the same cost as a single unit of anything in 40k. Of course, there's some hyperbole there. Most single 40k models are much more expensive. I hope that a lot of the information I gave didn't scare you off. It's a massively fun, engaging, and inspiring hobby. The community is typically pretty great, building and painting is incredibly rewarding, and anything that gets people to come together and agree on enjoying a shared interest bridges the gap between all of us, and there's something really special about that. Some of the most fun I've ever had has just been going to my LGS without even bringing my models, sitting down, and just talking about the umbrella we all stand under. So really, what I'm saying is, do you want to get into Warhammer? Then start with Kill Team. Kill Team players are probably also 40k players, which could lead you to getting the opportunity to borrow a 40k army, or be inspiring enough to start 40k on your own after a while. The stakes are much lower, and a lot of the information gained from playing Kill Team can transfer over to 40k if you make that decision. After all this, there's going to be a long ramble on me talking about paints and tools. I would recommend staying for that if you're uninformed, but it can certainly be skippable. It won't be clean and actually scripted like this has been. I have ideas for continuing to discuss this by talking about Nemesis operatives once I get the book in my hands, and going on about the positives and negatives of the Warhammer community, which will overlap with nerd communities in general. But I don't know if it'll be great to put myself in a position where I'm actively discussing controversial politics and behavior. Based on how this video is received will determine whether that video is made or not. That's all from me. Enjoy the tool and paint ramble if you stay. I'll see you guys some other time. Last minute, finishing editing, Spencer. I am gonna save the paint video and, like, the paint tool video and make an actual scripted thing. And, go really in depth instead of just talk out of my ass, like I am right now. So, yeah, sorry, he lied, man, he lied. Take it easy, baby.